All right, today we're going to discuss perimeter. You're going to know how you can use a formula to find the perimeter of a rectangle. We talked earlier about how we've done this because we were preparing for state assessments. So we went over some of this already. So this may be a review for most of you. If you do not remember how to do perimeter, then you're going to have to pay close attention. Let's read the problem at the top. Julio is putting a stone border around his rectangular garden. The length of the garden is 7 feet. The width of the garden is 5 feet. How many feet of stone border does Julio need? So your question, as always, is how many feet of stone border does Julio need? Get it highlighted. Some of you need to wake up this Monday morning. Now, what are the numbers in here we're going to be needing? 7 feet being what? The length. So think about what the length is, 7 feet, and the width is going to be 5 feet. Now, over here on the right, it says circle the numbers we used. We already did that. What is it we were asked to find? We already highlighted it. So what am I putting here? It's Julio. You don't say the J. So how many feet of stone border Julio needs? That's what you're going to be writing down. How many feet, and I'm going to abbreviate feet, of stone border Julio needs? Now, as we learned a couple weeks ago, perimeter is the distance around a shape. We also reviewed it this morning. We know that it is the outside of the shape. So to find how many feet of stone border Julio needs, we have to find the perimeter of the garden, and they have a nice picture of the garden to the right. Notice where they put the numbers that you circled. Length is 7. Notice that the length is always the long side. And then your width is 5, which is your short side. So we know the perimeter of a rectangle equals the length plus the width plus the length plus the width. So as we know, if this side is 7, what's that side? If this bottom is 5, what's the top? 5. So look at what they wrote. 7 plus 5 plus 7 plus 5. And when I add that together, I'm going to get what? 24. So my perimeter is 24 feet. So Julio needs how many feet of stone border? 24. Now that's one way of doing it. Adding all the sides. Okay? Remember doing that before? Here's the other way. You can use multiplication to do so also. They're going to show you how to do it with a rectangle and how to do it with a square. And I know you've seen both of these because we've talked about it before, but I want to review. So, in order to do this one, we can take 2 times the length because we know our lengths are both the same. And we also know that we can take 2 times the width because our widths are the same. So, if I was looking at this particular rectangle, not the one we just did, but this one here, you're going to take 2 times 12 because you have 2 sides that are 12. And you have 2 sides that are 8. And when you do that, you take 2 times 12 and you get 24, and then when you take 2 times 8, you get 16, which is all the work they've already done for you, right? Do you need to know how they got it? So I hope you've been paying attention. When I add 24 plus 16, I'm going to get a grand total of 40. So you will fill it in here. The perimeter of this particular rectangle is 40 centimeters. Notice that this one was measured in feet. That one is measured in centimeters. So you always need to make sure you know what is it measured in so I can put the label down. Okay, when I find perimeter, I only need whatever unit it is. Okay, as we've talked about area in the past, we know that it is going to be square units, but we will deal with that when it comes. Today we're just focusing on perimeter. So that's for a rectangle with 2 different shaped sides. With a square, what do we know about squares? All the sides are the same. So here you just have to take 4 times one of the sides and you should have what you got. So what are we measuring in here? 16 inches. So we're going to take 4 because we have 4 sides that are the same times the 16. And I get a total of 64. For those of you who are not figuring correctly, the perimeter is 64 inches. And if you can't do this in your head, should you be writing over here to the side 16 times 4 and do the math? Absolutely. Don't erase it. Leave it there. If you miss it, I'll know why. I can tell you exactly where you messed up on. Most of the time, it's just a multiplication issue. Yes? So you can use addition to add up all your sides, or you can use multiplication. With rectangles, you're going to do 2 times length, 2 times width, add them together. With the square, you're going to take 4 times one of your sides. Questions about those? No page. Here is where your formula vocabulary word comes in. Formula is a mathematical rule. You can use formula to find the perimeter. What we were just talking about were actual formulas. So you see the first one here listed for you is perimeter equals 2 times L, which is length, plus 2 times W, which is width. This is a formula. So if some of you were confused about what a formula is, now you're getting to see them. Yes? Notice over there on the shade you have length, which is the long side, width is the short side. Here's your example. You're going to find the perimeter of the rectangle by using your 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Yes? So with your partner, I want you to fill in what needs to be here based on what you see in the little rectangle. All right, who can tell me what they put in here for 2 times the length plus 2 times the width? Cheyenne. 2 times 18. 2 times 14. Because you're taking the length, which is the 18, which is the long side, and 2 times the width, which is 14, which is the short side. And what do we get when we do 2 times 18? And 2 times 14? And when I add them together, I should get a grand total of 64 what? So 64 meters. Yes? Make sure you have that label on there, please. Number 1 at the bottom says, can you use the distributive property to write the formula as perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width in another way? Is it possible for us to do that? Enid? And it is? Well, but that is commutative property. It's asking about distributive property. Do we remember what distributive property is? Do we need to read the sign over here on the wall? Adding 2 or more numbers together, and then multiplying the sum by a factor. So we can't add up the length and the width and take it times 2? Isn't that the same thing we're doing here, taking it times 2 and times 2? So what if I added the 18 and the 14, and then I multiplied it times 2? What would I get? Aha, so is it possible to use distributive property in a different way? Yes. So you're going to say yes, and then you're going to say, you could add the length and width, comma, then multiply by 2. And we're going to give that as P equals 2 times, in parentheses, length plus width. So are you still doing the same amount of steps? Yeah, you're going to add the length and the width, then you will take it times 2. Here you're doing 2 times one of them and 2 times the other one. Actually, this is going to be 1 less step, right? Does everybody see how you can do this? So something to think about when you're working yours out. Which way is easiest for you? 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, or can I add them together and then take it both times 2? Something to think about for you. All right, down here on the bottom, you're going to do the formula for the perimeter of a square. Think about what we did for the perimeter of a square. It was on the last page that we did, so you may have to flip back. What letter stands for perimeter? A P. What are you using for the length of a side? Pretty sure they didn't use L. What are you going to use over here for side? An S. Side has a what? Let's think about this a little bit. S. Yes? So how are we going to write this? P equals, no, look over here. What did we talk about?
Oh, S times 4.
And what did they start with? 4, being there are 4 sides to a what? Square times S. Guys, I know you've seen this before because we've done it on other pages, center pages to be exact. So you're taking 4, which is 4 sides of a square that are the same, times the side to get your total answer. So to justify the formula you wrote for the perimeter of a square, well, how have we been used to finding perimeter until now? If I have the outside of the shape, I'm used to doing what? Just adding them all up. Now do I have to do that? So I can find the perimeter of a square by adding the lengths of all the sides. We know that a square has how many sides of equal length? 4. So why not take that 4 times one of the sides and have it nice and easy? Isn't that simpler? Yeah. Okay, so something to say here. We're going to start with what we used to do, which is finding the perimeter. You can add the sides. The square has 4 sides. 4 sides of equal length. So take 4 times a side. And I'm just going to put that S there for the side so you don't have to worry. You don't have to write the 4 times the side, just put 4 times the S. Make sense? So finding the perimeter, you can add the sides. We know that a square has 4 sides of equal length, so take the 4 times a side, and that's a lot simpler than the other. Thank you. When you have that written, please turn the page. A square has 4 sides of equal length, so take 4 times S, or 4 times the side. You need to remember to listen instead of trying to copy after I'm done talking. Listen to what we talk about so that it makes sense to you when we're writing it down. All right, on the next page you will see your formulas for perimeter. There are your 3 choices. 2 times L plus 2 times W, or you can do 2 times L plus W, which is the ways we did it. That's for a rectangle, correct? And then look at it for a square. E equals 4 times S, which is what we just discussed. So you need to first of all figure out what kind of shape you are doing, and then figure out which one of the ways that you have you want to use. Yes? So with your partner,